Hello, everybody, and welcome to the season 2 premiere of Women of Dance. I'm your host, Sharonne Vinokurov, and I'm so happy to be back here with you guys. Um, this episode is going to be really special. My guest today is a dear friend of mine. I've known her for over a decade now. She's a member of the Jew crew. She was part of the Juminican team, as I like to call us. And we'll get into all of that. She was supposed to be on last season, but life happens. So I'm so grateful she agreed to be my season 2 premiere guest. So without further ado, let me bring on here my dear friend, the amazingly talented, multi time world champion, Vera Rowe. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm so happy to have you on. Thank you
Oh,
so much for doing this.
no, it's an honor to be on the show. Thank you for thinking of me.
Of course, as I said, I reached out to you in the very beginning. You're one of the first people I actually reached out to because you are a friend of mine, and I was like, she won't be like, no, what are you doing? So, and you were immediately like, absolutely, but life happens. So we rescheduled, but here we are. So thank you, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
You're live from Florida, right? How's the weather down there?
It was raining this morning, but the sun's out again. I'm here in Miami, so it
Isn't
doesn't
that
rain for too long.
I was about to say, I'm like, that's typical Miami, right? It rains for like
Yeah,
5 minutes and then it's sunny again.
yeah. The weather here has, as we get further into the winter, the weather gets more and more beautiful.
Nice. Very
Yeah.
nice. So for those of you that are tuning in live, remember we are streaming live to Facebook and YouTube. So if you have any questions for Vera or myself, feel free to put it in the comments. We will try to get to those questions if possible. We have a lot of material to cover. Um, and for those of you that normally watch the show, yes, you normally see me in dressy attire, if you will, but this is my homegirl right here. And I am rocking a UV Latin dance shirt, one of the original pieces of merchandise just for my girl. It's funny, like I was thinking about it. We always have our dance gear, like right, like you have your company stuff that you wear all the time, and then you'll have shirts from like congresses, right? Because
Right.
promoters will give you a t-shirt or whatever for you to wear. But like we don't really have other dancer shirts, right?
True.
Like, it's not like a thing, and yet I have a UV Latin dance one, so I was like, "You
Awesome.
know what? I'm rocking this today,
I
just for
appreciate
you." You're welcome.
it.
You're welcome. So, let's dive into the very beginning, right? Let's give everybody a little bit of a background on you, and tell me how your dance life began.
Oh man. Well, I'm originally born and raised in New York City. Um, and my parents, although they weren't dancers, they were just always huge fans of the arts. Um, and like when you grow up in New York City, you're surrounded by all different cultures, you're surrounded by the arts, music, like
Mhm.
everything, dance. And I was just always really influenced by Latin music. Like I grew up, a lot of my friends were Puerto Rican and Dominican, and I grew up going to quinceañeras and,
Nice.
being in them and dancing in them. And as I got older, I grew up going to the Latin clubs in New York, and I was just always like really influenced by it. And when I was a kid, my mom put me in dance. She put me in gymnastics.
Mhm.
And it all sort of just came together and led me to this point. And when I was in college, I was dating a baseball player, Willie, who was an amazing salsa dancer.
Really?
Yeah. And he's really the one that kind of like got me into it seriously. I
Mhm.
was I grew up doing it, and but I never really like trained in it or took classes or anything. And his mom owned a dance studio, and they kind of like got me more involved in it and got me really excited about it. And I started taking classes, and I joined a dance team, and it all kind of just like started like taking form and taking shape. And it's just
Which
always
dance
been
team? Do you remember
Oh
the
my
name?
gosh. Well, I went to Penn State University, so
Penn
Penn State,
State.
yeah, had a dance team, and I danced on it, and it was like a club, and they would
Nice.
always like host workshops and bring artists to teach, and I just always remember like taking the classes and going to the parties, and um, I just kept falling more and more in love with it. And because I already had a background in dance, that I think kind of gave me an edge, and I kind of like took to it, you know. But my dance background was in ballet and modern,
Yes,
and
ballet.
yes,
You know how I feel about ballet.
yes,
It has my
it's
heart.
the backbone of everything dance. At least that's what I believe.
Same.
Yeah. And I'm a graduate of High School of Performing Arts in New York City. So I was a dance major there.
Okay.
Yep. And that's where I studied ballet and the Graham technique of modern dance.
Very nice.
So, yeah. And then, of course, my gymnastics background, I did that for years since I was like 3 years old. Not seriously. I didn't really get serious about it, I guess, till I was like, I did classes, but like when I
Mhm.
was 15, um, a huge complex opened up in New York City called Chelsea Piers.
Okay.
And they opened up like this world class facility, this training facility that was like unbelievable. And until that point, there was really nothing in Manhattan that matched that like caliber.
Mhm.
So I always loved gymnastics. So my mom brought me over and signed me up over there, and that kind of took my gymnastics to the next level. I had a little late start. I was older, but I loved it, and I put a lot of effort into it, and I ended up getting recruited by Penn State, and so I competed Division One.
Oh,
I was a
wow.
Nittany Lion for 4 years of my NCAA eligibility, and
Wow.
yeah, so all of that kind of like played a role, I think, in my dance career. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
for sure.
Yeah, and kind of shaped the direction that I went in with it.
You're not the first guest that I've had who has a background in gymnastics. Katie Marlowe was on the
Yeah,
show,
we have a
and
very similar
you guys
background.
have a very similar background, which makes sense because you, like myself, like Katie, were flyers.
Yes.
We
Yep.
love to be in the air, and cabaret, that all comes from ballet, and then, gymnastics with the flipping and all, like, that's the foundation right there.
That is a foundation for sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and cabaret is a nice way, like with the gymnastics and the dance, it just was a great way, at least for me, to combine both of my passions into the same genre, the same art form. Yeah.
So, let's talk about you really diving into your dance career. And I'm gonna start pulling up some videos because we have a lot of videos to go through. A lot of great stuff. Speaking about, people that you do lifts with. You started with dancing with this, who I refer to as the Dominican catapult.
That's a good name.
Isn't
That's
that a
a
great
good
name? It's
name.
such a great name. Yes, that is the Dominican catapult,
Yeah.
AKA Darling Garcia.
Yep.
This is from 2009.
Yeah. This was the first time that I competed at back then it was called the World Salsa Championships, which was hosted by Albert Torres. And this was my first time ever competing with Darlin. And this was the first routine that we ever did together. No puedo más. And yeah, I'm watching it. It brings back a lot of memories.
It's so funny to see my guests' reactions to these videos because you guys get like, I've had everything from, "Oh my god, where did you find this?" to, "Oh my god, I can't watch this," to Lucia, who, like, fell backwards when she saw the video. Like, the reactions have been so fantastic. I love watching your guys' faces
Yeah.
because
It
it's just so great.
it's to be honest with you, it's hard to watch
Yep,
the videos from the beginning.
I
I mean,
know.
we all start somewhere. Um,
Absolutely, and that's why I show these videos, right? I think
yeah.
it's important for our guests, for our viewers to see that our guests didn't start out at the top, right?
No, for sure.
We
For
have to put
sure.
in the work to get there. Everybody starts somewhere, you know?
Yeah. And it's important to, remember where you came from too, and
Absolutely.
also be proud of it. I am proud of those times with Darlin, even though, as I look back on it, I'm like, whew, that was rough. But I also feel a lot of pride when I look at those routines.
I'm
We
sure.
put a lot of hard work into them and a lot of passion, and um, they bring back a lot of good memories too.
I'm sure. I'm sure. I got another one coming up for you.
Okay. This was the second year. This must have been what, 2010?
Possibly. Possibly.
Yeah.
It's either 2010 or 2000. No, you know what? The blue costume was from your semifinal, and this is you guys in the finals in
Oh, okay.
'09.
Okay, so this was the same competition.
Did you guys use the same routine and just change your costumes,
I
or?
believe it was a different routine.
I think so too, because I try really hard when I pull up these videos, even though the audience doesn't hear the sound because I want them to hear you. When
Yeah.
I make your playlist, I'm listening to the songs. So I
Yeah.
try not to put the same because I know how us dancers do. Sometimes we'll reuse a costume for a
Multiple
different
times.
right multiple times. So you can't really go by the costume,
Yeah.
whether or not I'm showing our guests, I mean our viewers a new routine. But yeah, this was a separate routine if I'm not mistaken.
Definitely. I remember now. Actually, like I didn't have a recollection of this routine until you just pulled up this video. That's how long
Really?
ago it was. Yeah, I remember No Puedo Mas, the first one, the blue routine, but this one,
Well,
um,
you always remember your first.
yeah, exactly. Um, but yeah, like this was the first time I ever competed, and I think Darlin and I were dancing together probably a year, maybe at this point, and it
Mhm.
was really like I was still very much just a social dancer. I didn't have, any training, or this was really like the first time I ever did something like this. And I was kind of taking Darlin's lead on it because he had, competed multiple times in the past with different partners. So he was very experienced. But for me, like I almost had, almost no training. Just I was an avid social dancer, and I had been, like I said, social dancing for years, but the performance side of it was really new for me. So,
Before we go to the next video, I just wanted to real quick talk about the costume that you were wearing there. The first 2, the blue and the pink.
yes,
Who made those costumes?
I can't even remember her name anymore, but it was a Russian woman in Brooklyn.
Valentina.
It was Valentina, yes.
I loved her. She was so good.
Yeah, she made costumes for everybody in New York City.
She made
Everyone.
costumes for AIM too, for
Yeah,
years, until
yeah,
she left, until she moved back to Russia. Valentina,
yeah.
if you're back in New York and you're watching this, we miss you. Please come back.
Yeah.
Please, please. The only reason why I ask is because if I'm not mistaken, the next routine that we're gonna see, you made the costumes.
Probably. No, Valentina made this one
This
also.
one?
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
about the shirt for Darlin?
I made the shirt.
Uh-huh, I knew you made something here. I was like, "Don't mess I know you made something here." Was this your
Yeah.
first time?
Yeah. After Valentina left, like, it was a huge struggle to get a really good quality dance costume. And, you know, um, I started learning how to sew on my own. I love that type of stuff. I love, arts projects and things like that. And my grandmother was an amazing seamstress. And I just felt like I had it in me. I was like, you know what? I want to try to learn how to do this. So I started making costumes, and I was just sort of like self taught. Like, I bought a few books, took a few classes, and I bought my first sewing machine, and I just started making costumes. And at first they were terrible. And then I just kept practicing and practicing, and I kept getting better at it, and more experienced. But yeah, I just learned from doing.
Yeah. Another fun little fact about this, costume of yours at least, I own it now.
You do. You bought it from me years
I
ago.
did buy it from you. This is very true, and I wore it the first time I ever did, like, a solo gig with Darlin, like, out of town.
Gotcha.
It was the
Very
same
cool.
day that he had asked me to partner up. It was after you guys had stopped. We'll get to all that's fine. But yes, I have that costume now. So it's mine.
And actually, this competition was in San Francisco.
Mhm.
It used to be put on by the San Francisco Salsa Congress, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, many years ago. I don't think it exists anymore.
That was gonna be my next question. Does this event exist
I don't think so.
still?
Yeah.
That was like almost a baby trick compared to what comes next in your guys' career.
Yeah. Well, Darwin didn't even want to do cabaret. He was like really against it.
What?
Yeah, he did not want to do lifts and tricks. He was, an on one guy. And
Yeah, but I feel like
he,
he's always been tossing people around. I don't know why.
no, he, when the World Salsa Championships first came out, and the dancers from Colombia started coming to compete. And all of a sudden, the world started seeing these insane tricks that they were doing. Um, Darlin told me, he's like, who's going to compete against that? Like, are you crazy? You want to compete in the cabaret division? Like, do you see the type of stuff that you would be up against? He told me no.
Wow.
And yeah, in the beginning, he had no interest in doing cabaret. And I kind of pushed him. I really wanted to try it because I had a gymnastics background and he was so strong.
So
You know what
strong.
I mean? I'm like, come on, we got to try this. So we started like playing around with some tricks. I had some like very little experience from an old partner that we used to try some tricks, and we started getting coaching and started doing some higher caliber tosses and twists. And that's where my gymnastics career really came into play because I was very comfortable in the air and I had
Mhm.
a lot of experience with flipping and twisting. And I used my gymnastics technique in it, and it just sort of like worked for us.
I've seen videos. Unfortunately, I don't have them because 'cause they're not public, but I remember seeing videos of you guys training for tricks in the gym,
Yeah,
right? Multiple videos of you flying into, like, a foam pit
yeah.
or whatnot. Like, talk about that whole process.
Well, Darlin and I, we used to do these tricks. I would come up with these ideas, and we had nobody really to spot us or anything. So we would go to a gymnastics place right outside of Philadelphia that had all the mats and the foam pits and everything. And I was like always at home in the
Mhm.
gym. I was like back in my element.
Yeah,
And
right?
Darwin would like you said, catapult me into the foam pit.
Do you see why I gave him that name?
Yes.
It's so
And
perfect.
yeah. And that's how we would like start. And then once we started to feel confident enough, we would go over the mats, then we would go over the hardwood floor. So we did it in like a progression.
Lucky. I never got to use a foam pit.
Yeah.
I never got that luxury. For me, it's always been, "This is the video. Let's just go. Go up." I'm like, "Okay." I'm
Yeah, I,
showing this video in its entirety, by the way, for 2 reasons. 1, you guys won this competition,
yeah, that was in
and it
Philadelphia.
was in Philadelphia, and 2, I remember Miss Jan had made the costumes, and she felt so confident about you guys going into the comp. She was like, "It needs more stones. It needs more," and, like, her watching, she was like, "I knew it. I knew it needed the stones because like, that was just everything."
Yeah.
And
Yep.
and yeah, it was a phenomenal performance. I mean,
Thank you.
but look
Well,
at all this is a nice little progression of all these tricks.
yeah.
Look, that was not easy.
No, and it wasn't pretty either.
I
You
mean,
could
listen,
see over the years as the tricks started to like become more refined.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm gonna talk real quick about another partnership. We're just gonna touch on it for a second because we'll see him again. But you have worked with other people.
Yes.
Darlin
We
was not your
did.
only partner. At the same time, you were working with Mariano.
Yeah.
Talk
Um,
to me about that.
so Mariano and I met, oh my gosh, maybe 20 years ago already. But this is getting into something different. But before I was a full-time dancer, I was a high school math teacher. And
That came out of nowhere.
yeah, I was a high school math teacher for like 7 years. And I worked at a Boston public school called the Boston Arts Academy. And it was a high school that was modeled after the high school that I graduated from, High
Oh,
School of
wow.
Performing Arts in New York City. And I was living in Boston because I did my master's degree at Boston University. And right after I graduated, I applied for a teaching position at Boston Arts Academy, and I got it.
Nice.
And so I was teaching math. And, I was a salsa dancer. I was a social dancer. And I decided to start an after-school program at Boston Arts Academy. And so I advertised it to all the kids, and everybody signed up. And I got a really big group of the teenagers that signed up for it. And I started teaching them classes, and I taught them a routine, and I started taking them to salsa congresses. And we would do fundraisers to have enough money so that they could all travel. And one of the kids on my salsa team at Boston Arts Academy was Mariano.
Oh,
And
wow.
he was actually in my freshman math class the first year I started teaching. I was 24 years old, and
Wow.
he was 13. And he was in my 9th grade math class, and he signed up to be in my after-school program.
Wait, stop. We got to go back a second. Did you say 13?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you were he's that much younger than us?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, I didn't
Well,
realize he
I'm
was
that
such a
much older
baby.
than him.
Sorry, Mariano, if you're watching, I'm sorry. I did not mean to call you a baby. You're just so
Yeah.
young and fresh-faced. You know what? Some people, their faces, you really can't tell. He does look young, so I'm not
Yeah.
actually that surprised.
Yeah. So I was actually his high school math teacher.
That's so crazy to me.
Yeah. And there was a whole other group of kids that came up with him that are now all grown up. And a lot of them still social dance and are part of the salsa community, like on
That's
a big scale.
awesome.
Yeah. So then, as Mariano grew up, he graduated, he was going to college and stuff, and he himself was very influenced by the salsa community,
Mm-hmm.
and he wanted to dance. And so me and him partnered up and did a routine together. We did a couple of routines together, I think. And
You did. There's another one in this playlist.
yeah, we
We'll see it.
traveled together to different congresses, and yeah, we had a lot of great experiences together also. And now I think he lives in Switzerland, and
He does. He
yeah,
does
he's
live in
teaching at a
Switzerland.
school with his girlfriend, and he's doing amazing too. He's doing really big things in the dance world.
How long did you guys work together?
I think it was maybe only about a year and a half.
Okay.
But it was hard. I had moved to Philadelphia, to the Pennsylvania area.
Mhm.
And
I was about to say, you weren't actually in Philly.
no, not originally. Originally,
Yeah.
when I started dancing with Darlin in 2008, I was living in Boston,
Yes.
and he was in the Philly area, Philly, Jersey, and we were commuting back and forth. And
That's
then
crazy.
several years later, I ended up moving there.
Yes. Well, you moved to Delaware,
I
right? Or like somewhere. It
I
wasn't. You weren't
moved
actually in Philly.
I moved to Allentown,
Allentown.
Pennsylvania, and
Yes.
then later to Delaware. And after that is when I came to Miami.
Gotcha. I'm like, I remember at one point you were in Delaware.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. How
For
many
about a
places
year.
have you lived?
Oh my gosh, so many. I moved all over the Northeast for a very long time, because at the time I was married, and my husband worked for Amazon.com. And he was kind of like, his job was a logistical role. They would send him to places to open these facilities for Amazon.
Mhm.
And, Amazon facilities their warehouses are always like in these very rural kind of areas because they need like a huge amount of space. So we were constantly getting relocated. And
Wow.
that's why I moved around so much during that time period. And I was living like kind of like in these like rural kind of places,
That's crazy.
It was because of that. Yeah.
I have a video that I found. I don't know how long you worked with this person for. I did see some videos of you teaching together, but I have a routine here of you with Jason Molina.
Oh, yeah, that was just a one-time thing that we did together. Um,
Talk about
he,
working with people that aren't like local. I
yeah,
mean, come on. Man's from another country.
yes, yeah, yeah. Jason came to Boston, and I brought him to do some like workshops and parties and stuff, and he was just like, "Let's perform, Vera. Let's do a routine together." So like he flew in that night. We put together a brand new routine, and the next day performed. It was insane. I
As
don't
only
think
the
I
pros can do.
Yeah, I don't work that way. I am not like a last minute type of gal. So it was nerve wracking for me. But we
I
did
don't
it.
think anybody wants to be a last minute gal.
Yeah.
I think it's something about the dance industry that you learn to adapt and you gotta sometimes do something
Yeah.
real fast.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, Jason was there teaching and working. So we did a piece together.
What
That
was it
was
like working
typical
with
of him
him?
though. He does that a lot. Like, if he's traveling somewhere, he'll do a routine with like a local person, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. It's
Yeah.
definitely different.
Yeah.
And probably a lot of fun for you to just be able to have these, like, random little, partnerships or, like, experiences.
Yeah, you learn from each one, each one is
Absolutely.
a growing experience.
You and Darling competed together for a very long time. You guys did the World Latin Dance Cup how many times?
To be honest with you, like I don't even remember. It was a lot. I think I mean maybe 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it
Let's
was
see.
probably 6 years.
You partnered up, you said, in 2008, right? You danced together for a year before your first comp.
Yes.
And then do you remember the last year of your partnership?
I believe it might have been 2011 or 2012.
I think it's 2012. We're gonna get to that last video because
Okay.
there was an overlap there of Garcia brothers.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that. We'll get to that. This was a second place finish, right?
Yeah, I believe so. We were
Talk
second
about
place that year.
talk about the difference between the Latin Cup and the other competition you did before. What was it? The World Salsa Championship?
Um, so yes. So the World Salsa Championship is what it was called um, in the early 2000s.
Okay.
And then I think it was a group of organizers that put it on. And then I believe Albert Torres left that group and then renamed the competition the World Latin Dance Cup.
Gotcha.
Um, and so it was very similar, but it was under a different name. Um, but yeah, Darlin was actually dancing at it the years that it was called the World Salsa Championships. And then later on, when he partnered up with me, I believe that's when it became the World Latin Dance Cup.
Was this one of your made costumes?
Yes, I made this costume.
So pretty.
Thank you.
I'm a big fan of purple.
Yes. And actually, Anya designed it. Anya
That was gonna be my
Katzman.
next question was who did the design?
Yeah, Anya designed it and I made it.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I could totally see Anya's style on this thing for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Do you have a favorite routine that you did with Darlin? Out of curiosity?
I believe it was like, I don't even remember the name of the song. I'd have to think back on it. It was the routine that I did. It was the second to last year that I competed with him.
Okay.
And I'm sure you have the video in there somewhere.
What color was the costume?
It was like a green and black fringe.
Green. Oh, you know what? That's an earlier one.
Is it?
That was 2010. That's a 2010 video. I mean, I have it on the playlist. We can go back in time. Let's go back in time.
Yeah.
Let's
I
go
can
back in time and see if we
explain
can find that
why
video.
it was my favorite also. I was
These
actually just telling this story to somebody the other day, some of my students. But I think it's a really great lesson that I learned from this routine. Yes,
this
this is it. Yep.
yeah, this was 2010.
Okay. I think this was my favorite routine. And notice there's no tricks. We weren't competing in the cabaret
Hmm.
category at this point.
Yes.
And we had competed a couple times before, and we would make the finals, but we just never did well.
Hmm.
Like we weren't placing, and
Okay.
we were trying to analyze, like, why, like what can we do better, what do we need to change, what do we need to work on to up our game. And we got feedback from a lot of the judges. We took a lot of private lessons with different
Hmm.
people in the industry, and like I really needed to focus on technique. Like I had explained to you, I was really just a social dancer
Hmm.
that was starting to perform and compete. Um, but I really needed to study and learn the technical side of the dance. And that year, I put a lot of focus into that. I worked on my basic step and my technique and just my execution.
Hmm.
And along with Darlin, we choreographed a routine that was way slower than we had ever done. He loves to dance to fast, like exciting songs.
Who, Darling?
Yeah.
No, you're kidding.
Yeah. And we chose this song, which was like way slower, totally different from anything that we've done in the past. And even the choreography was totally different. It was slower. It was more technical, more like lyrical and graceful, rather than like hard hitting and fast and like all these tricks.
Hmm.
And our plan was to dance it completely different. Like Darlin was gonna like lead me really soft, and we were gonna work on that type of feel.
Hmm.
And so we worked for like months on this routine. And Darlin always used to say to me, Vera, I don't feel like I'm performing when I do this. Like, I don't feel like if I'm not dancing hard and fast, like I don't feel like I'm putting on a show. Like I don't
Hmm.
feel it. And I said, I understand what you mean. Like I feel very similar, but if we just keep doing what we're doing, we're gonna keep having the same results.
Yep.
Um, so we ended up going to the Latin Cup, and it was the night before the competition, and we were on the floor with all the other dancers rehearsing. And Darlin sort of just like reverted back to what we used to do. He started like leading me hard and
Hmm.
faster and hitting things harder. And I turned to him and I said, "What are you doing?" Like, we're reverting back to what we always do. Like, what happened to our plan? And he's
Yeah,
like,
right.
"Vera, I don't think it's going to work. Like, my gut instinct is telling me, like, I just don't feel like I'm dancing." And we kind of like got into it because I was like, I hear you, but we have a plan. We came
Yeah,
here with
right.
a plan. Like, let's not abandon it. Let's stick to it no matter what happens. Even if we come in last place, we have a plan. We've been working on it. Let's just stick to it. So we did, and we made it to the finals, and we got up on stage, and we did it exactly the way that we had planned to. And we never won. We took second place that year, but
Hmm.
that was huge for us because we had never placed before. And I think we made a huge impact. People took notice of us. The judges took notice of us, and I remember some of them, pulling me aside and saying, "Who are you? You don't look like the same dancer that we've been
Hmm.
seeing all these years. Like, what did you do?" And I was like, "I just took your advice."
I
you
mean,
know, I took your advice and I like hibernated in the studio for about a year. Nobody really saw me. And I was just like driving to New York every weekend and taking privates and practicing on my own, not just with Darlin, but just solo in the
yeah.
studio alone, like working on my basic and my arms and my movement and just everything.
Who were you training with in New York?
Um, I was training with Anya a lot on my basic step. I was training with Billy. I was taking privates with Tito and Tamara. I
All
took
amazing
privates with
coaches.
Osmar, with Carol.
You went in.
Hmm.
Well, listen, that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you want this, if you want to succeed in competition, I mean, the amount of training that goes into it
Yeah. No, I
is
was
just
all
another
in.
level.
I was all in, and I really wanted to do well. You know what I mean? And I heard everything that people were telling me, and I took it in, and I put it into play, and I got the results that I was looking for because of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We're going to talk now about, I don't want to refer to him as the other Garcia brother because that doesn't sound right. But in 2012, you went to the Latin Cup with two Garcias.
Yeah. Don't even remind me.
This was the
one Garcia is a handful enough.
I
and
I
have
really
to deal with two of them.
I wanted to ask, like, I feel like a lot of people in the world were probably looking at it like, oh my God, she's so lucky. Like, she gets to dance with both of them. And I was probably like there with some of us that know them, close. We're like, oh, Vera, are you okay?
I
Send
know.
out smoke signals if you need help.
I know. That's so funny. Yeah, they're a handful, but it was awesome. Like it was just at a period where I wanted so much more. I
Mhm.
wanted to I wanted all in, and Darlin had a lot going on at the time. Like he had just gotten married. He was building his family. He was building his dance studio, and I wanted to practice every day. I wanted to travel, compete. I wanted to train, and he was very busy. He had so much going on, and he turned to me one day and he was like, well, we had multiple discussions. Like that's why I was dancing with Mariano, because I needed more. Like I
Yep.
wanted to dance every day. I wanted to train every day, and I couldn't with Darlin,
Yeah.
and not because he didn't want to, just because he had a lot to focus on. So
Yeah.
it was actually his idea. One day he called me up, and he had Yuri on the other line, and he was like, "Vera, hear me out." And I was like, "All right." And he was like, "Why don't you dance with my brother?" And I was like, "What?" I was like, "I want to dance with your brother." And he was like, "What?" And he was so deflated. He had to tell Yuri, "I'm gonna have to call you back." Like it was such a big mess. And
That's
I
so
just really
sad for
wanted to
Yuri.
dance with Darlin, but I wanted to dance with him every day, and I just couldn't. And Yuri wasn't really established yet, and I don't know. I
I
kept
mean, at
looking for
least
a
he wanted you to
partner,
keep it
but
in the family.
yeah, yeah. And eventually, like I just warmed up to the idea because I was starting to think, you know what, maybe my career is over. Like I couldn't really find somebody that I could train with every day and be like 100% with.
Mhm.
So finally, like I talked to Yuri and I was like, "Listen, this is what I'm looking for. I need you to like quit your job and go into the studio with me every day and train really hard and spend all your money on private lessons."
And I'm
And
sure he was like, "That sounds fantastic."
yeah, he was like, okay. So we did, literally, like he quit his job, and like for a whole year we were just like training and taking lessons and choreographing and working out and getting it fit and just like kind of growing together. And
This was the first time you were also competing in bachata, right?
that was something I've always wanted to do. And Yuri was like the first one that really agreed to do it with me. But yeah, Yuri was all in. And I think that he when I tell you I was all in, he was all in too. So
Nice.
it worked. And I think that's why we had a lot of success together.
For
We're,
sure.
we gave up a lot. We gave up a lot, and we put in 110% to what we were doing. And
It definitely shows because you guys had a lot of success.
we did.
Like, a
Yeah.
lot of success.
Mhm. Believe it or not, next May will be 10 years of us dancing together.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it. I mean, this was the first video that I showed of you two where you guys did Salsa Cabaret. You were in the mesh black, right, with the blue, accent skirt. That was 2012, right? So
Yep. That was it. That was the first year.
is somebody mowing the lawn outside right now?
I might have to go in the other room, Sharonne. Welcome to Miami.
It's all good. It's very quiet. I don't think the viewers are having a problem with the viewers. If you are, please let us know.
He's literally right outside my window right now.
That's hilarious. You should put a sign in the window. Shh, live video.
I was like, maybe she won't notice.
I just wanted to make sure it was that and not something else. Because
no, he's mowing my lawn right outside there.
you have a very, busy house.
Yes,
so who the heck knows what could be going on over there? This costume also stunning. I mean, at this point, you were just making everything, right?
I was. I made that dress and I made Yuri's costume also.
Tell me, this is something I always worry about too for my costumes, right? When we're doing cabaret, what are the things that you think about when you're coming up with your costume idea? Because you can't just do whatever you want for cabaret with the costume.
No, you can't. You have to think about, and I'm telling you this from experience. One, the skirt gets in the way, of him grabbing whatever he needs to grab to do the trick. A couple times his hand has gotten wrapped in my skirt.
Oh.
So anything hanging from the costume can be very complicated. The stones, we do a lot of tricks where you're wrapping around his neck or his body and the stones scratch all the way through. We've had, issues where his zipper got stuck on my tights.
Oh yeah, I've had that. The belt gets stuck on the tights or something.
Yeah.
And it's like 30 seconds, not even like, it's like 3 seconds into the routine and you got to be out there for like another 3 minutes with a gaping hole.
Exactly. A couple times we did a toss and as I was coming down and he was catching me, my heel caught his costume and ripped the entire costume all the way down. When I tell you ripped, like shredded, it was shredded.
Stop it.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So you've got to be so careful with these cabaret costumes. Like you're limited in what you can do. And once I started making my own costumes, I would have all these cool ideas that I wanted to try, but I could never do any of them because they didn't work for the tricks.
Now, you've always been in shape because you're an athlete, but I mean, you look fantastic in these videos, girl. I don't have the confidence to wear something like that in my body. And you just looked incredible. Did you do when you were training for all this, right? I mean, some people think like dancers do crash diets or anything like that, but you weren't. You were just being super healthy, right? With your training and everything.
I was eating really clean, very, very clean. I prepared all my food. I wasn't really eating out. We were training in the studio a lot and obviously doing cabaret work. It's like a workout every day. So doing the cabaret work just forces you to be fit. But we were also working out. Like we did a lot of, workouts every morning. I did a lot of like body weight stuff, like gymnastics type stuff, chin ups, leg lifts, push ups, that type of work. It was, that was always really important to me. Like I wanted to, be the part, like if you're going to be a cabaret dancer, you got to walk the walk.
Very, very true. Very, very true. You do need to walk the walk for sure. I do remember several times that we would be at events together, competitions, and you guys would be really excited at the end. You'd be like, it's cheat meal day. Right? Like we'd be at Summit, for example, and there was that cafe across the street when it was at the DeVille. And like Sunday, we would all be there like getting burgers and pizza.
Yeah.
We were like, definitely. Thank God.
No, we always deserved a cheat meal for sure.
Absolutely.
Never
but it's just about being healthy.
Yeah, For the most part, on a daily basis, I just ate really, really healthy. And the work that we were doing shaped us.
I remember this year of competition, you guys were already in Florida at this point. You guys had moved down there, but I remember we still considered you Philly because I remember for the professional bachata cabaret division, you and Yuri took first.
Yeah,
Darlin and I took second, and Jose and Loretta took third. So I was like, "Look, it's all Philly." And you were
it
like, "No, no,
was.
we're Miami." And I was like, "No, no, 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 no. You just moved there. We're still claiming you."
Yeah.
But
There were
that
a
was
lot of great dancers that came out of Philadelphia during that time period.
I think about the fact that we were also close to New York
Yeah,
and we're able to put in the extra training always helped us. Or like,
definitely.
our coaches, like Anya will come to Philly to work with all of us. Billy would come to Philly to work with all of us.
Yeah,
In fact, I'm pretty
definitely.
sure they all came there to work with us on the same day because they were training all of us and then we would go compete against each other. And I remember the judges made a big deal of it too because they were like, when they were announcing it, they were like, it's between two brothers. And I was just like, oh God.
Yeah. And you're right. The last year that I danced with Darlin, um, I competed with Darlin. I also competed with Yuri in
Mhm.
different categories. So there was an overlap that very last year at the summit.
I remember. I
Yeah.
remember. That was, like, crazy. It was literally like, "And this is the last time." The
Yeah.
summit was always after Latin Cup.
Yes. Hmm. Hmm.
This also gorgeous costume. You
Thank
were
you.
just talking about the fact that the stones hurt, but can we just talk about how many stones are on that costume? And it's not that much fabric, be honest.
Listen, beauty
You
is
worked.
pain.
You is this why Yuri started wearing collars
Yes, and long sleeve.
and long
He
sleeves?
hated me. But the
There
thing is, like, if I was gonna do that many stones, he couldn't do any because the stones would scrape on each other and cause too much friction. So he would like be like, I don't have anything, and you have all of this beautifulness. It's not fair.
Listen, he just needs to be a solid base because he be tossing you around. It's all
Yes.
it's all about the safety
Yes.
for
Yeah.
sure when it comes to this. And there's a lot of trust. There has to be so
Yes.
much trust between you and your partner when you're doing cabaret because
Yes.
the things that you're putting out there. Some of these tricks it could be life or death if it
For
goes
sure.
wrong.
For sure. And like when you're creating new stuff,
Oh my god.
it could be really dangerous. But
Like
definitely like trust is key when you're doing lift work. Um, and building that trust is everything. Like, and as the years go on, your trust gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're able to do more and more and more. And like Yuri and I had a rule: we never lifted anybody else. We never did tricks with other people ever, because we didn't want to get hurt. Even with our students,
that was
I
gonna be
would
my
never
question. What
do
about your
I
students?
would never do cabaret with my students. I still don't, by the way. I prefer to play it safe. And like, if there's anybody I'm going to do tricks with, it'll be Yuri. But I literally, I don't think I've done a trick with anybody else in the last 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't say the same. I try to tell my students though, if they want to do a cabaret routine, they also need to have an amateur partner to practice with, and
Yeah.
they also have to do a private, like with
Yeah.
Darlin, we're in the
A lo-
studio.
we get a lot of people that want to do privates with us for lift work. And they ask, okay, am I going to
Patrick.
do the private with Yuri, or am I going to do the private with Vera? And we're like, nope, you have to bring your own partner.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, we're not doing tricks with anybody else but each other, but it's just too risky. And like, this is how we make our living. So God forbid one of us gets hurt. It's like, you can't work.
I
So it's
actually want
just,
I wanna rewind. I never do a rewind on the show, but I wanna do a rewind to this trick because this I don't think people understand how hard this trick really is, and I'm saying this as someone who has tried to do this trick. It is so difficult to find that perfect spot. Can you talk about that? Because I don't think people understand how scary that is for us. to be up there with our, like, looking like, we don't see the floor.
Yeah.
Can you just talk
Um,
about that a little bit?
yeah. This, I have to say, I only know of one other couple that ever did this trick. And it was Sharonne helped me out with his name. Do you remember his name?
Um,
He's from the 1970s and 80s. It was
Artie?
a, no. Oh,
Artie maybe?
it'll come back to me.
Okay.
But I've never seen anybody else do it. And Billy taught us this trick.
Mhm.
And the first day that Billy showed it to us, Yuri got it. And like Yuri was meant to do this lift. Like this was his trick. He hated
Wow.
this trick. It caused him so much anxiety, like to get the hand in the right spot every time. He missed it once in the semi. I think it was at this competition in the semifinals. He missed the trick. It didn't go up. But for the most part, he's always nailed this trick. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's my body makeup. Like he got it the first day he ever learned it, and since then he's always been able to do it.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's really impressive because it's so hard, and
it's
like you
so
said,
hard.
the placement of the hand is so important, and if you like, all of our bodies are different, right? So sometimes your legs are longer than your torso or your torso is longer, so, like, to find that it's just so hard, so
Yeah,
kudos to you guys for being able to execute it because
thank
it's been
you.
a rare thing. This routine, gorgeous. The costume, gorgeous. The first time I saw this costume was from a hustle routine, which, as we had talked about earlier, just you and I'm very sad that I could not find a video of. Unfortunately, for those of us who dance hustle, we know a lot of the times we use music that YouTube and Facebook want to block because we don't own it because they're popular songs.
Yeah, yeah.
So people don't get to
I
watch
own
it.
the video, but it was taken down from every platform because we used a Neo song.
Mhm.
So it was just, yeah. You can view it in other countries, but not in the United States.
See, you should have told me that. I would have set my VPN network to something else and done a screen grab. If you
You-
had told me that, we would have had
yeah,
it on here. I
yeah,
mean,
because
nobody would have cared because there's no sound.
it's still on YouTube, but you can only view it from certain countries, and the
Any
United States is not one of them.
No, for sure. If you wanna watch any of the hustle divisions from Summit, IHSC, any of them, you have to change your VPN, so
Got
it
it.
looks like you're not in the US, and then all of a sudden those videos appear.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
had no idea, but can you talk to me? I mean, so we have videos of you doing salsa and bachata. Unfortunately, not a video of hustle, but do you have a preference of those 3 styles?
Um. Well, I actually do have a preference, but it didn't come until even after Hustle when Yuri and I started doing ballroom.
Mhm,
When we started competing in theater arts, I just kind of found like I found my genre,
mhm,
and I felt really at home doing that work, even though it was new, because like we started with salsa and then we transitioned to bachata, we transitioned to hustle, and then later on towards the end of our career we transitioned to ballroom. And in that genre, I even remember telling my coach like I felt like I found my dance, you know.
wow.
Unfortunately it was later on in my career, and I remember telling him like I wish I had found you like 15 years ago, but you know life works out the way it's supposed to, and
Very true.
I feel very fulfilled with how everything worked out. But definitely, I ended my career doing something that I always have wanted to do since I was a little girl.
This was your first theater arts routine, right? This was to Hello.
Yeah, yeah, by Adele. Yeah, this was the very first time we had an experience doing this type of work.
I
Um,
love it.
yeah,
This is actually a style that of or genre of competition that I would love to get into.
yeah,
I feel like you. I feel like I would very much feel at home in it.
I did. I thrived in this setting, and like in the beginning, when we started competing in the ballroom world, I felt kind of like a little intimidated
Mhm.
because, like, you know, the girls are so trained and they've been doing it their whole life. And But I had two amazing coaches, and they kind of like helped me with my perspective. Like, I believed that I brought something different to that genre, a different edge, a different background, and I was doing different types of tricks that world had never really seen before,
Mm-hmm.
and I went with that, and I had to walk onto the dance floor at those competitions like I owned that floor. Well, you have to do that in any type of competition, right?
Yes.
But especially in this world because I was so new to it, and it was definitely one of the greatest experiences of my entire life.
I'm not gonna lie, one of the things that I think excites me about doing this genre of dance is, you're wearing ballet shoes. You're wearing flats.
I there's a background to that too, though, a story to that.
Okay. Give me,
Um,
please, please.
I was supposed to do this piece in heels,
Mhm.
and I really wanted to, but I need a surgery on my left foot,
What?
and yeah, since 2019, I haven't been able to put heels on.
Oh my god.
I have a really bad bunion on my on my left foot, and I lost like the movement in the joint, and it won't bend enough to get a heel on.
Oh my god.
So for before we went to Blackpool, I got a injection in my foot. What's it called?
A cortisone
A
shot?
cortisone shot to help me with the pain, and I did the routine in ballet slippers.
Wow.
Yeah.
This was the routine you guys took to Blackpool, right? But this was the first time you
This is
guys
the
did it?
first time we ever competed, and the routine has really, really morphed since this time
Yes,
period. Yeah,
it has. Unfortunately, Blackpool doesn't post any videos, so I had
I
a hard
know.
time finding that actual performance. But you talked about how that was such a dream of yours
It
to be
was.
there. Can you talk about what it felt like to be there and to actually achieve that dream?
Yeah. I was always a fan of the ballroom world since I was like a little girl. But life just sort of took me the direction of salsa and bachata because of like where I grew up, I guess. And that's just the direction that I went in. But once I started doing cabaret work, like going to Blackpool was always something that I wanted to do. Um, and like we were talking about, Yuri and I's career really evolved over time. Like we went from salsa to bachata to hustle. And then, like, towards the end of our career, I would have to say it was 2017. And Yuri was really ready to retire. He did not want to perform and compete anymore. We were
Mhm.
exhausted. Our bodies were beat up. We had had like 3 knee surgeries. We were in pain, and he was like, Vera, I'm done. Let's be done. And I said to him, I'm sorry, but I can't. I was like, I can't retire unless I go to Blackpool at least one time. And I was like, I don't need to win Blackpool. I don't need to go multiple times, but I can't feel fulfilled unless I compete on that floor in the Winter Gardens at least one time. And so
Where is his hand? Sorry.
there,
Yeah.
it's on the inside of my thigh cup.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that for the people that were watching and thought I was showing something inappropriate. Ladies and gentlemen, this yes, we curse on here, but we don't show that type of stuff, okay? That was actually a proper lift because people have asked me about that.
Yeah,
They're like, how where is her hand?" And I'm like,
yeah.
"I'm pretty sure it's not where you think it is."
It's definitely close though. Yeah, sometimes you those tricks require you to get to know your partner very well.
Mhm. Especially when you're working on them for the first time
Yeah,
and you're just trying to figure it out.
definitely.
So,
Um,
you had a dream come true with doing Blackpool. This past year, you also had another dream come true. You became a mommy.
I did, yeah. Actually, my son is gonna turn 1 on Friday.
Oh, baby Ari.
Yep.
Can you I know that everything was really weird because, COVID and everybody was shut down. The studio that you have was obviously closed. like everybody else. I mean, you live in Florida, so things opened up here a lot earlier. We're not gonna get into all of that, Florida versus the rest of the US, because we're
Yeah.
not doing politics. We're not politics. Not what the show is about. Um, but I did want to, talk a little bit about how you find the balance.
You mean in the midst of all of that?
A wife, a mother, a studio owner, how do you make it all work?
Yeah, it's definitely I wouldn't call it easy.
No, nobody's thinking it's easy, for
Especially
sure.
like the last year I had so much going on because in 2020 obviously the pandemic hit, and Yuri and I retired in 2019 after Blackpool. We retired from performing and competing, and we were ready to just focus on building our business. And I wanted to start a family. And we were done. We went to Blackpool. That was like the last thing on our bucket list. And we retired like with a full heart. I felt very fulfilled with my career, and I felt really ready to be done. And so my husband and I were trying to have a baby. And right when I got pregnant in February, it was like mid-February, obviously about a month later, the pandemic hit, and my business was shut down for 3 months. And we didn't know how long we were going to be shut down for. And we went through a lot. We were faced with a possible eviction.
Wow.
And we were in communication with a lot of the other studio owners in Miami and in South Florida. And a lot of the studio owners, they decided to close because by law you still have to pay your rent. Even though we were like in lockdown and we couldn't be in business, your rent was still piling up. And the rents here in Miami are like astronomical.
Yeah.
So every month that went by and we had no income, and the rent and the bills just kept piling up, like it was getting very scary. And all of us were going into debt. And a lot of the studio owners decided they couldn't take it anymore, and they were like too much in debt, and we didn't know how much longer this was going to go on for. A lot of them closed
Yeah.
permanently and
A
gave
lot
up
of it
their
a lot of
lease.
studios closed all over the US,
Yeah.
probably all over
And
the world.
Yuri and I were holding on by a thread. And then one day the landlord called me and said, listen, we can't do this anymore. I need you and Yuri to pack up because I don't think you have a viable business anymore. And,
Wow.
that was like one of the lowest points for us. Yuri and I were like on the phone thinking about like what we were going to do for a living. I was like starting to work on my resume again. I was thinking I was going to have to go back to being a teacher. Like I didn't know what we were going to do. Yuri and I were having conversations about like, where are we going to put our stuff? Should we get a storage unit? Like, how are we going to tell the students? Like, what are we going to do?
Wow.
And then literally, Sharonne, I'm not even kidding you, 2 days later, the governor of Florida comes on TV and tells us that we can open on Monday. And I called up the landlord and I was like, they said we can open. And he's like, all right, let's move forward.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And so that Monday, Yuri and I opened for business. And prior to the pandemic, right before shutdown, our school had experienced a huge growth spurt. We were almost at 250 students. We had a staff of like 10 employees,
Oh
and
my
business was
god.
just like booming. The school was huge. It was growing. Like it was amazing. And then boom, March hit, shut down. We opened again 3 months later on June 8th. I'll never forget it. We had 30 students,
Wow.
30 students, right? And we kept pushing on, pushing on, pushing on. We were holding on. We had our heads right above water. And slowly the students started coming back. People started getting vaccinated. As soon as that started happening, even more students started coming back. And miraculously, the business came back, and we rebuilt. We do not have the same student base that we had. It's like all new faces and a lot of the same people. Like our core is
Yeah.
still with us, but we rebuilt. Like I look around the school now, and like almost everybody is new, you know,
Wow.
and we just broke 200 students again 2 weeks ago. So
Mazel tov.
we're almost back where we were. And the studio's doing amazing. We're having our showcase this Sunday. So I'm really excited, our annual student showcase, and
Oh, nice.
like the business is doing so good. And you know, like people need to dance. People need to dance after this year that we had. And you know, I had a lot going on personally, on top of like the whole pandemic, on top of almost losing my business, on
Mhm.
top of becoming a mother for the first time. My husband was diagnosed with cancer.
Oof.
And he got his diagnosis 2 weeks after my son was born. So a lot of
Ugh.
people don't know this story. But I'm going to share it just because maybe, you know, there's some people out there that need to hear it, and
Oh, please
maybe it's
do.
going to help some people. But yeah, I gave birth on October 15th, 2020. So my school had only been open since June after the pandemic. And 2 weeks after my son was born, I was home on maternity leave, and my husband was home on paternity leave from his company. And my husband had a seizure out
Oh
of the
my God.
blue, and he's never had any health issues before. And the right side of his body went numb. And so it was kind of like almost like stroke like symptoms. Nobody knew
Mhm.
what was happening. So he went to the hospital, and he had a bunch of like tests done, scans done, and they found after a brain MRI, they found a tumor on his brain.
Oh my God,
And
Vera.
literally, like a week later, he was in brain surgery, having the tumor removed. Yeah.
Ugh.
And then it took like a few weeks to biopsy it. And when the results came back, it showed that it was anaplastic astrocytoma, which is grade 3 brain cancer. So it was a very serious diagnosis.
My God.
And yeah, and this is all like my son wasn't even a month old yet.
I
Yeah.
don't know how you got through all of that, but how's he doing now?
He's doing great. So my husband had the brain surgery to remove the tumor, and he had 33 rounds of radiation to the brain, and now
Mm.
he is on a year long treatment of chemotherapy. We just are about to start month 7 of 12 months of chemo, and his cancer is stable, which is a win for us. He's probably never going to be cancer free, because with brain cancer, there's really no cure for it. The treatments just kind of like keep it from progressing. But it's the type of cancer that will, you know, it does come back, and you just keep treating it if you have to do more surgeries or more different types of chemo or whatever it is. But we just keep battling it and fighting it. And he's doing really well. You know, he's young, he's 35, and he handles the treatments like a champ. And he's got
Wow.
like a great mentality. And our son Ari is better than any medicine. You know, it gives him
I'm
a real
sure.
purpose. So you know, it's been 2020 was a rough year for us. I'm not gonna lie. It was a lot. It had a lot of highs, like the birth of my son, and it had a lot of lows, like my husband's diagnosis, and you know, my business. But like my advice really to anybody out there who's going through something like that, that's really hard, is that, you know, you have to live a grateful life, right? Because in any situation that you're in, um, it could be worse, right? What are the things in your life that are wonderful? So every morning that I wake up and every night that I go to bed, I think about like all the amazing things that I have to be grateful for in my life, like my son. Even though my husband is sick, he's still here and he's still doing great. My business, we fought back and my business is thriving. I have my family. I had an amazing career. I have a lot in my life to be really, really grateful for and really thankful for. And that's what I really focus on.
I love
Also,
that.
a
I love
really
that.
important thing that people should remember is to not compare their life to other people's lives, because that can get you in a lot of trouble. You can say, why me? Or why, you know, why did this happen to me? I wish I had a life like that person or whatever. But you get what you get. You know what I mean? Your life is your life, and you have to make the most out of it and find happiness. You have to choose to be happy no matter what cards you're dealt in life. And you don't compare yourself to other people's lives. That just brings nothing but unhappiness. So definitely, being grateful for all the wonderful things that you do have in your life, despite all of your challenges, is a really healthy way to live. And for anybody that's going through something hard out there like that, I really suggest you try to focus on that, on living a very grateful life. And that can bring you happiness in some of the hardest and most challenging times.
Wow. Vera, you're so strong. And I mean, I always knew that you were a strong person because you've gone through so much, but like, kudos to you for getting through all the challenges that you did, especially in this last year,
Thank
and
you.
doing it with a smile on your face and a grace. Because, like you said, you could have been out there being like, woe is me, and, life sucks, and
Yeah.
fuck the universe or whatever because of all that was going on. But you never did. Your
No.
posts have never been negative. You've always been extremely positive, always very supportive, like, so real kudos to you on
Thank
that.
you.
I know you guys retired, but am I gonna get to see you on stage at all again at any point?
Well, right now, we're really focused on performing with our students. So, like in the showcase, Yuri's doing his typical 100
Of
pro-ams.
course.
I have a bunch of pro-ams. We're dancing with our teams, and but I think we'll definitely perform at a much lower scale. I don't think I'm going to be going in the air like I used to anymore. And we're not really interested in training that way anymore. Like that, that's definitely a lifestyle that is hard to
Yes.
keep up with, and we're definitely done with that. And but I think I'm going to perform here and there and just focus on doing some fun routines and really enjoying it. But yeah, I don't think I'll be dancing again at that level. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I'm happy about that.
Fair enough, fair enough. You gave a lot of great life advice, but I gotta ask you the final question before we go because 'cause we're already, like, 12 minutes over, but I could talk to you all day. Um, because it's so great, like, when you're friends with someone, you could just have a conversation. Before we do wrap up, I do want to ask you the same question I've asked all my guests. If you could give one piece of advice to women who wanna make it in this industry, what would that be?
um, Never let anybody dictate or tell you what you're capable of doing, because there's only one person that knows what you're really capable of, and that's you. And if I had listened to people setting limitations on me in my life, I would have never gotten to where I was today.
Yep.
And I never listened to anybody. Like, I always believed in myself, and I always knew what I was capable of doing. And it's more a matter of you setting your mind to it, um, being really focused, having a clear plan, a clear goal, and a clear
Mhm.
plan of execution, and just living that truth as hard as you can and staying as committed to it as possible. And never let anybody tell you, oh, you're not talented enough, or you're living in the clouds, or
Yeah.
no, only you really, really know what you can do, right? And I think in a lot of situations, I shocked the hell out of some people because they didn't think I could do what I did. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And you have to believe in yourself 100% of the time. You have to have thick skin. Um,
Mhm.
and you have to also know that you don't need anybody. All you need is yourself. I knew that I didn't need anybody. There are people along the way that help you. You have to seek out great coaches, and you have to seek out people that have the knowledge that you need.
Mhm.
But all you need is yourself to make your dreams and your realities come true, right?
I
It's
love
not
that.
based on anybody else.
That's such great advice, Vera.
Mhm.
So great. Well, for anyone who's been watching, we've had Vera's information scrolling at the bottom of the page the whole time. You can follow her by following UV Latin Dance. If you follow Vera's personal pages, it's just going to be a lot of pictures of her baby. Um, to be fair, although he is adorable,
Thank you.
you should probably make his own little Insta like Ari's Insta and just have us all follow him and the dog. 'Cause they were in my Ocho Candelicas video. Oh,
They
I should have
were.
added that in the montage.
They
That
were
was
the
cute.
stars.
They stole the show. Nobody cared about all the dancers. It was just about the dog and the baby, um, as always. But yeah, you guys can check her out at UV Latin Dance on Facebook and Instagram, and you can go to uvlatindance.com to get all their class info, correct?
Yep. Hmm.
And you guys have online classes too,
We
right?
do. We have an online school, uvlatindanceonline.com.
You guys had that set up before COVID, didn't you?
For many years. I
I
think we've had
remember
it since like 2015.
you guys were ahead of the game. That's probably why you were able to pick back up because you were ahead of us. You guys
It
knew.
helped a lot.
I'm
Yeah.
sure. I'm sure. Vera, thank you so much for giving of your time and hanging out and talking with me today.
Thank you. It was an honor to be on the show. Thank you for thinking of me.
Of course, of
Mhm.
course. You're amazing. I'm gonna let you get back to the hubby and the baby and the dog. I know you locked them away in another
I
room
did.
so you could have quiet. So we'll let them out of the cage now. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. It was such a pleasure having Vera here on the show. Make sure you tune in next week where my guest will be Kate Rodriguez. So
Awesome.
it's going to be exciting. Make sure you got your popcorn, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to spill all the tea.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Once again, I'm your host, Sharonne Vinokurov, and I'll see you all next week on Women of Dance.
Bye, guys.
Bye.